Leviticus 7, let's call this one plus minus. Definitely not a concept that comes out of the actual chapter, but it's a modern concept measuring an individual's actual impact on a team. Sometimes teams will measure plus minus, especially in basketball, meaning when you check into the game, whether you're a starter or not, what does the team actually do? Are they gaining an advantage over the opponent, or are they catching up in a game where they're losing, or are they losing on balance when you're in there? It's kind of like the game within the game. What is your team actually doing? Are they winning or losing while you're on the floor? And that helps to measure your objective input or liability to a squad. Why is it important? Because the quality of the squad can sometimes mask our deficiencies, and that is in many ways what we're seeing not only in chapter 7, but in chapter 6, as once again, we're seeing the priest's actual role in these Levitical sacrifices. We're going to see that there are some things that are so holy that they're going to make the mere things that they touch holy. In particular, the grain offerings. And the grain offerings caught my attention because I'm like, it's just bread or just grain. How is it going to make something else holy? But once again, God is not limited to appearances. Going back to the brazen altar, it is a most holy place, even though it's just bronze. Even though we could clearly see in the inside of the tabernacle, the gold elements seem like they have an obvious value. You cannot be fooled by appearances with God. Likewise, it's also going to be the case with the sin offering that just by its nature can make a thing holy. But the flip side is in chapter 7, verse 19. It's going to talk about even if something touches a grain offering or a sin offering and is made holy by that mere touching, you can go right outside of that experience and then become defiled and become devoted to destruction. Verse 19 of chapter 7 is going to say, flesh that touches any unclean thing shall not be eaten. It shall be burned up with fire. Likewise, verse 20, but the person who eats of the flesh of the sacrifice of the Lord's peace offering while uncleanness is on him, that person shall be cut off from his people. Understand the application to us. We can, as we talked about in the previous chapter, understand the importance of having attention to detail. Like we said, it's important to understand attention to detail on the front end and the back end. In life, if you have finally reached a place where you aspire to be, and it's an organization that you can hold your head up about being a part of, understand that that association, if it's got a great reputation, lifts your status a little bit. But then the question is, what's your plus minus? What are you actually doing to add value? Understanding that this chapter is really talking about more than just talents. Talents come and go. God can make an organization successful or dry it up. God can make an individual successful or pass those talents on to somebody else. So the thing that God is really talking about here, when he's talking about cleanliness, is understanding that concept again of how talent is really empowered by trustworthiness, and a word I've used over and over again, integrity. If you've got two employees, both have talent, but one has talent plus integrity, it probably seems obvious that you would want to go with the one that has both the talent and the integrity, unless your organization has integrity issues. That's a different matter. But if we need an example, go back to Joseph, understanding that once he was shipped off into slavery and then to the jail and then eventually to the leadership of Egypt, his bosses were described as people who didn't have to worry about anything under his care. One described as not having to worry about anything other than what he wanted to eat, because Joseph not only had talent, but he had talent plus integrity, and more important than any of that, he had the blessings of God over what he was doing. And so understanding that to the degree we believe in a higher power, let that have value. Understand there's only so much I can do under my own talent and integrity, but ultimately I need God putting me in spaces where I can succeed. And over we saw not just with Joseph, but Jacob, God was helping not just them, but anything they touched, like these sacrifices, become holy. And so that's why, especially as believers, if you're employing people or if you're, from the flip side, looking for an organization, you need to look for organizations that you believe God is willing to bless. And integrity is a huge part of that, because even as an employee, if you have a great job in a shiny new organization, if you're spending all your nights worried about whether or not y'all are going to be investigated because of business practices there, what's it really worth? Ultimately, this goes beyond just talents to peace of mind. Everybody's quality of life is better if they are in holy unions that are doing things in a way that allows everybody to get sleep at night, and more importantly, to have success beyond your mere ability. Because if you believe in God, why not try to do business in a way that's going to be blessed by God?